On today's episode of Behind the Wheel with Chad. So this is the to-do list for the 56 Chevy. This was as of December of 2020, well, 2 months ago now, I guess. So start off at the top of the list. That's the overdrive transmission install and all the associated things that go with it. So you'll see a little bit of video of that later on here in this video. Still to do yet this winter, towards the end of winter into spring, is I'm swapping out the carburetor, the existing carburetor, which is original, to a new 2-barrel Weber. So that'll help it give it a little bit more boost, little peppier and a little more horsepower. And, so that'll help that. Plus it won't leak, which is a big benefit. So I swapped out the distributor and the coil with a new high energy unit, which was a General Motors 1980s technology that has been adapted to this old 1956 engine. So that'll give a little more reliability and also a little more power. Relocated the oil filter. It doesn't have the same type of oil filter that a modern car does. It has what's called a canister oil filter. That's what they had back in the 50s. Actually, those engines didn't really have oil filters. That was an add-on option. So I did an oil change, valve cover gasket replacement. Swapped out the master cylinder, which I'll show you coming up here later in the video. Some video footage of that. Had to swap out some brake lines to adapt that new master cylinder. Gives it power brakes and also more reliability because it separates the front and back brakes like a modern vehicle now. I had to replace the driver's side front door glass. It had been cracked when I bought the car, so I got the parts for that, and I'll probably be showing a little more of that in a future video in the coming weeks here. That'll be working on that here in the next week or so. Replacing all 4 interior door panels. You may have seen on the last week's video there that I was in the process of making some of those. Well, I've got all 4 made now, and I'll share some pictures with you here in this current video. And I've got the back ones installed in the car, and they turned out pretty decent. So I've got some photographs of that also. Still left to do here later this winter and into the spring, is I have some rust repair on the trunk lid, a bunch of touch-up paint work to do on the car, just some nicks and bubbles and things like that I'm going to touch up. I've already inspected the suspension and brakes on the car, and they're all pretty good. Nothing wrong with that. I changed out the old oil in the rear end. I don't think it had been ever changed. There's no drain plug, so that was quite the job to suction that out. I redid the vacuum on the car to give it better vacuum wipers and power brakes. You'll be seeing some footage of that and a little more explanation in the video coming up here on this video this week. And still also left to do this winter is some bulb swap outs to give it some brighter headlights and brake lights, and do a little more odds and ends on the interior. So that's what's slated to go here for the rest of the winter. Stay tuned. So I got the old car up on the lift here, and you can see got the new exhaust all the way from the engine back. That's all brand new. I had to do. The old one was pretty old and tired and had a lot of holes and leaks in it. So I did that and changed the fluid there in the rear diff. Did that this winter. Here's a shot of the new transmission, and apologize, it's a little dark under here, not a lot of light, but you kind of get the idea. That's the cable operation and the electronics of it. So for people that may have never seen one of these before, that's kind of how that works. So yeah, got the don't know if it's hard to kind of see under here, but got the new seat belts, bolts in. For the seat belts, got new backup lights. So backup lights were optional on these cars, so you have to kind of apologize for the rust. Again, this car is just a normal run-of-the-mill car that gets driven a lot. So this isn't a show car. This is an old car the way they mostly were. This car hasn't been modified terribly from what it was from the factory. So the backup lights were an option that I added. Here it was using original equipment from 1956. So that kind of gives you an idea under the car, some of the things that were done. You know, changed the oil, went over the front suspension and checked it. It's old looking, but everything checks out on it. Steering box leaks a little bit, but you'll have that on an old car like this. Maybe next winter, if I get ambitious, I'll either change or rebuild that. So anyway, this is what the underneath of a 1956 Chevy looks like, and some of the things I've done this winter. So today is Saturday, February 6th, and this is the to-do list left to do on the 56 Chevy. And I've already done a lot of things to it. So this winter, got the entirely new exhaust on, which I'll show some video of that. Put the overdrive transmission in, which is original equipment that was rebuilt. This car did not have overdrive in it. It just had the normal 3 on the tree manual transmission. That's what it came with from the factory, and it just didn't have the highway speed. You know, you could push it to 65 miles an hour and it was laboring pretty hard on the old engine. So back in the 50s and even back into the 40s, what they did was they made overdrive transmissions for these cars, and they were pretty simple compared to what we have today. But they were operated with a excuse me, I gotta step over my lift here. My garage isn't very big. It's just a single bay garage with, and as you can see, I got a lift, 2-post lift that I have to step over. But what they did was these transmissions were operated, these overdrive transmissions where you had your normal column shifter that you'd shift through your gears like normal, but you'd also have, you can see it, it's kind of hard to see, it's a little dark in here, but you got the pull cable and you have some electronics to go with it. So when you wanted to operate it, you just had to basically be sure that your pull cable was in the correct position, and then you could have some overdrive for the interstate. It helps out a lot. So haven't driven the car yet. Doing a bunch of interior upgrades. You can see it's kind of a mess in here, but I put seat belts in the front seat this winter. Did a bunch of wiring on the car for the overdrive and some other stuff. Put high energy ignition on it. That was a 1980s technology that definitely helps these old cars out. Put a new radiator in the car late in the fall. That was probably like in October-ish. Put a new master cylinder, power brakes on the car. Not that it had a problem stopping, but the old master cylinder was just a single master cylinder, which I always replace those with modern master cylinders for safety reasons. And put a vacuum canister on it, which will help with the vacuum wipers. These cars had vacuum wipers that, when you go up a hill, they ran off of engine vacuum, and when you go up a hill, they wouldn't always work. So the key here is, rather than spend several $100s on an electric wiper conversion, and my original vacuum motor is running fine, I just put a vacuum canister in, which will help with the brakes and the wipers. So this is what the under the hood of a 1956 Chevy car looks like. I replaced the valve cover gasket. There's the new distributor. It's kind of hard to see. It's a little dark. But yeah, this is the winter project this year. Getting it ready to travel this summer. So stay tuned. So now that I've made all 4 door panels for the car, I'll show you some pictures, kind of give you a quick how-to of how it came together. So you start with sheets of ABS plastic, and then you cut the foam backing. And what I did was, these are just pretty simple, like two-tone door panels that I made half cloth on the bottom and half vinyl on the top, with a piece of chrome strip down the middle. So these are pretty basic. You can do all kinds of custom designs, and there's tons of YouTube videos showing you how to do that, where you can put flames or manufacturers logos or whatever you want. But I kept these pretty simple because I'm pretty simple. But you can see here that you cut the actual ABS plastic to the same shape as your door, and then you cut the foam into top and bottom. What I did was I wrapped the actually I put the cloth material on the bottom, wrapped it around the bottom and sides, and then I actually wrapped the top piece of foam in the vinyl and then adhered it down on top, and then put the chrome strip down the middle. So you can kind of see in the photographs, kind of get an idea of how I did it. And then finally, what we've all been waiting for, including me, was to see the final product installed. And so this is a picture of one of the back door panels, and went together pretty well. These doors and the trim was not meant for padding. It never had any padding. It was just the old cardboard with cloth on it and a little bit of vinyl stuck to that, so no padding. So it was a little bit of a challenge getting the door cranks and the door handle, interior door handle, and the armrest and all that installed, but so far so good.